Hey guys, Matt Sardo, Monkeys Fighting Robots, and man, we still have to talk about Mark Millar and whatever the F he's doing lately. I do not understand his endgame at all of what he's trying to do. He's trying to help the retailers and help the industry, but he's really just seems to be getting in with the Comicsgate crew and the cancel pigs. I just don't understand, and he's the next old man to sit on his lawn and say that the creators of now, of this generation, suck. And I've seen it so many times where old people kind of, not all old people, just the curmudgeon-y ones are grasping at straws and they're just like, look at this generation and yada, 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 and they suck and this is why they suck. Dude, these are all comic book creators. We're talking about comic book creators here. This is a small, little niche, amazing community that has rich history that goes on for 100 years plus. And everybody who makes a comic book is bringing something to the table here. And to just be on this all bashing of DC and Marvel, the big two, and saying that the industry is in ruins is just false. It's a huge false narrative. This is hilarious. I feel like we're doing all the Trumpianisms. Like there's gaslighting, there's false narratives, there's lots of lies and all these other things. And it all comes from I don't know where it all comes. I don't know what the hell Mark is going on right now. I don't know if he is like a bored rich old man who's like, okay, what trouble can I cause? Or he's like hurting financially and has to make a name for himself so that when he does throw his next book out there, it gets some fire. Like he's, no bad PR, no bad press is, works, whatever the saying is right now. Cause I'm just really upset. I'm really upset. Like there's been like 24 hours of like Gail Simone being upset. And if you're upsetting Gail Simone, you must be doing something wrong. She is one of the greats when it comes to comic book camaraderie and bringing up and helping out every little creator out there possible. Like Gail Simone is what we should strive for as a comic book creator. I mean, that's where we should be. Gail Simone has helped so many other people and given advice and propped up and promoted and helped comic book shops out and everything. And I was seeing Mark, talk about comic book shops and Gail kind of chimed in too. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting dynamic. And I was just waiting for it to fall apart, and it did fall apart yesterday. And then Mark Waid came in this morning and was like, yeah, you're a douchebag, But when Mark Waid poetically calls you a douchebag, you probably are a douchebag. And I'm so dumbfounded at what Mark Millar is trying to do at this point in time. Like, was he trying to get editor-in-chief of Marvel? Is he really trying to help retailers and get a voice out there so that the big two listen? I don't know. Only Mark's true intentions will be seen as they unfold. And right now, as of 39 minutes ago, he's trying to backtrack from some comments that were made and things that were listed on Twitter. And this is why I was kind of hesitant to kind of talk about this, because I didn't know what was true and what wasn't true. And I'll wait for it to all play out, and I'll probably comment on it again. But the cancel pig thing really does sound like somebody who is aggressively trying to shut down one side of the conversation. If you're really trying to have a conversation with all sides of the comic book world, aggressively going after one group and using terms like cancel pigs to rile up Comicsgate, because those trolls are out there. Keep waiting for them to die off, but I'm sure they'll be around for a long time, and it really sucks. Because again, these are more of the old dudes that are like, oh no, look at this new generation of creators. They suck. They're not like the old generation. And I'm like, you guys are killing me. They're killing me. Every generation does this, and it's so annoying. You know, every generation tries to like burn down the previous generation and like punk rock it out and be like, like right now I hear kids say like, I hate Todd McFarlane. I hate, all what he did. And I'm like, okay, and you have your new person. And then I'm sure, for me as a kid, I was like, I don't understand Jack Kirby. And I wasn't hating Jack Kirby, but I was just like, I don't understand him. It's not my cup of tea. But then as I got older, I was like, oh, this is, Todd McFarlane was my generation. And now I can appreciate Jack Kirby, which was the previous generation. And you can look at things in perspective. And that's the cool thing is growing old with comics, you can start looking at all those different generations of creators and be like, oh man, there's so much good shit going on here. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, like, if you own a comic book store, and again, I will always say this, that retail sucks. Retail is the hardest effing thing in the world and everything like that. But if you choose to open a comic book store and you can't sell the shit out of the holy roller from Image Comics, I don't know what you're doing in comic books right now. There are so many amazing indie books coming out from all the different publishers. And if you're not trying to push these and not trying to sell the graphic novels and trying to push, if I had a comic book store now, it would basically be like top 100 graphic novels and then like other crazy shit from indie creators. And I would totally be pushing the storylines that are going on there. And I would have a pull service, but it wouldn't be huge because like there's not a large market on that and stuff like that. So I think, but like there are so many good books coming out now. And like I said before, I would totally tell people like, hey, you want every Image #1 book coming out, and then you like read the first issue and you decide what you want. And you could even like, I know you don't want to discount, but you could be like, hey, if you get I'll give you like 10% off so that like you're getting on board or jumping on board, or talk with Image and see what you can do with that stuff. There's a lot of different things you could do to kind of pull in new readers on new books. And there's like, you just got to be creative on it. Anyway, so let's real quick. Mark Millar held his retailer summit on Monday, I think it was. And I watched it yesterday and I digested it. And again, it was 4 older white dudes talking about the industry and talking about the 80s and the 90s and the aughts. And I'm like, hey guys, we can look at other industries and see that like change is on us, change is upon us. And like, you can't go back to, you could try to go back to what worked back in the day, but guess what? It's not going to work because it's a fractured audience now. And I'm sure every TV network would love to figure out how to do what they did with MASH season finale, where the whole entire world watched it. And 100, whatever it is, 80 million, 100 million people watched the show. But now, a good TV show gets maybe 5 million. An amazing TV show gets 10 million people. So you went from like 100 million to 10 million. And that's because there's different options out there. The same thing is happening with like movies now. Like, why do I need to go to the theater and have somebody with their phone on in front of me watching the film and tapping on their phone when I could just wait 30, 40, maybe 90 days max and I can watch it at home? I will gladly pay $40 to rent that film the day of release so I can watch it in my home as opposed to going to a theater and watch it. So, what different interests you have? Okay, let's look at this. Journalism completely changed since the 80s, since the 90s, even the aughts. It's completely changed. Radio has changed as well. TV has completely changed. The movies is going through it right now, and they're feeling it, and it's not working out too well for them right now. There's big changes and everything. These movies aren't bombing. People are just waiting to go see them. And then music has already gone through this. We can look at what music did and where music is now. Like, it's completely changed going on from there. So now comic books are in this crazy flux right now where you have more books coming out than ever before, but the industry is coming out. The industry is changing and it's fractured, and what people spend their money on is completely fractured. And so everybody's like doom and gloom, doom and gloom, doom and gloom. We're like, no, this is where we evolve as an industry. And I don't know what that looks like. I know that I started mailing out letters to comic book shops to let them know about Indie Comics Creator Con because there's so much noise on social media and stuff goes to spam and emails and everybody gets their emails. So I was like, okay, how do I break through the noise? Well, let's try this. So things are changing and how we market things are changing. I mean, every creator I know is just on social media, like, my FOC's here, pre-orders are here. Come on, let's go. And if everybody's doing that and you have like 300 books coming out a month or 500 books coming out, like, that's a lot of messages of like, buy. And you start to zone out as a consumer. And you're like, and also then if you walk into a comic book shop and there isn't somebody there that's like, hey, guess what came out? Holy Roller just came out and it's amazing. Or Transformers #1 just came out. Like, you need to be a salesperson at this. And the summit that Millar had, they talked about what percentage new comic books were in their stores. And it's a good percentage, but it's not a huge percentage. And that's because comic books is a very niche like thing now. They sell a bazillion Funko Pops. Like, that's the trendy thing right now. If you looked at stores, they always started targeting like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, and they diversified their sales because comic books can't alone bring in the rent that's needed to keep them in business or pay the bills. I mean, I walk into Newberry Comics and they're everywhere in the New England area. And the footprint of comic books in that store that's called Newberry Comics is maybe 15% of the store or 20% of the store. And they got their like new this week rack, and then they have like trades, and that's it. There's no back issues. There's no nothing like that. But it's a mall, and then the rest of it is like anime and manga and gaming and Funko Pops and T-shirts and apparel and all that other stuff. Like, I don't think a comic book shop alone is going to be a sustainable business. And that's not necessarily a knock on the industry. That just is where we are as a society and how we spend our money. I mean, my parents had a video store, and they went out of business, or because like a Blockbuster opened up, and then Blockbuster went out of business because Netflix opened up. Like, these different medias are evolving and they're changing, and how we consume them is changing. And we still don't have a very good platform to read comic books digitally. So I mean, like, we're just still going to be like, we're going through a major like struggle and growth, and I know that, like, there's the Kickstarter boom, and I don't know if the boom is over with Kickstarter, but like self-publishing and doing all that stuff and like DIY. Like, if I didn't believe in the comic book industry, I would not be doing Indie Comics Creator Con. But like, what I see is that there are a million amazing indie creators out there right now from all over the world, and they're producing really good quality comic books that aren't the big two. And you're missing out if you're not like jumping in on some of these stories. Like, this is some quality stuff going on in the world. And so I think it's really bizarre what Mark Millar is doing right now. He's kind of taking a victory lap of like, oh, we made some change and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, like, you had 4 old dudes talk about yesteryear in the comic book industry and what they would like to see. I mean, there are 1 or 2 like good comments in there about like running a business and doing things with the comic book industry. But like, you can't rely on Marvel and DC to keep you in business. I get it, it's not a sustainable business where you're waiting on other people to keep you in business. Like that's not how it works. That's why you see people doing like Facebook live sales. You see that back issues are starting to like boom again and people are collecting that kind of stuff. And so the industry itself is changing and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But the naivety of Millar, and I don't think he's naive. I think he's very smart. I think he knows what he's doing, and I don't know what his end game is. But he's like really pushing buttons right now, and he's pushing buttons with the Comicsgate community, which kind of makes sense because if you look at a book like Kick-Ass or Nemesis, like psychologically and socially, like those really align with the Comicsgate crew, what they like in comic books and stuff like that. So I can definitely see that happening. But I don't, it's really weird. I don't understand his agenda. I don't know, he says he's coming from a place of like caring about the community and caring about retailers. But if you want to do a retailer summit and you're not talking to anybody from like New York City and you're not talking to anybody from like LA and you're dealing with a dude from Florida who, and that's a whole nother, he's like, I don't want to be political, but like, guess what? I know when you say the quality of the book isn't good, you're talking about diversity. Like I'm not an idiot, and it's okay that the books of today do not reflect me. I'm 47 years old. Like, I'm really glad that they reflect like my daughter's age and their age and they can be inspired. And they're like, holy shit, Spider-Gwen. And then like all the other shit that's going on in the world. Like these books are not supposed to reflect you your whole entire life because things change. Things change. The world changes. One final tidbit, like they just made Transformers #1 just came out and they're like, oh man, we got 100,000 copies out there. And that's a huge success. And I'm like, man, that is not a huge success. I'm glad that they think it's a huge success and I hope everybody makes money and I hope they keep making them out and everything like that. But I'm like, when you think about the amount of people buying a comic book and, a huge title like Transformers #1 comes out and they only sold 100,000 copies, like we're not really getting a huge footprint out there because especially I'm sure somebody bought two, and somebody got variants and all the other things going on there. So again, comic books is a super niche market. And if you're a retailer, I understand how tough it is and how incredibly tough it is and how frustrating it's got to be to put your blood, sweat, and tears into something and care about something as much as possible and watch it and go through the evolving stages of it where like technology and where people are at, society is changing and like you might not be in business. You might not. It sucks. It really does. My parents went through it and I think that's capitalism. It sucks. It really does. The one comment from that round table that was good is I've always said this is that Marvel and DC should be looked at as R&D companies and research and development, and they should pay creators a lot of money to just keep pumping out new characters and storylines and everything like that, and go from there and not worry about making money because with the films and t-shirts and apparel and everything like that, like you can recoup what you paid some dude or dudette to create Spider-Gwen. If you get, if you go crazy and you start making the new, whatever the next Deadpool is, whatever the next Spider-Gwen is, or whatever the next Peacemaker or Suicide Squad or whatever's trendy now, that people are buying up, Guardians of the Galaxy, like, if you can just keep busting those out, that's how you, I think, fix the industry. Again, I will say this over and over again. If you gave me Fantastic Four, I would go on a 20, and nobody would give me the distance to do it, but I would go a 24 issue run, self-contained issues, where each issue they come up with a new character or a new villain and a new adventure. And then after 24 issues, you kind of look back and you're like, okay, which one of the crazy ideas stuck? Which one of those characters stuck? Which one of those characters did people just go bonkers crazy over? And then you're like, okay, here's what it is. But you have to take like 24, you have to take a swing every month with Fantastic Four and just get them off Earth and go cosmic crazy and just be super inventive and all this stuff. But again, Mark Millar is really coming at this from a weird angle. Internet's going crazy, which is always an overreaction, but like he's saying some hurtful things. He's stoking the flames of the Comicsgate crew. There could be a better way to have this conversation. And I know that he's smart enough to have that conversation in a better way. It's just weird. And I'm really trying to figure out what his end game is. And it will be interesting because the way the news cycle works and the way we work right now, this will come to a head a lot quicker than it would in the past, because that's how we work as a society now. So it'll be interesting to see what video I'm recording next week. Take care, guys.